Let me back up a little bit. Gonna back up out of here. Excuse me. That checks out. Yeah, the surfing the air is cool.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And wondering what the potential for the future is and whether or not that's a good thing.
I think it's going to be a great thing, but I think it's not going to be all a great thing, and that is where I think that's where all of the complexity comes in for people. It's not this like clean story of we're going to do this and it's all going to be great. It's we're going to do this, it's going to be net great, but it's going to be like a technological revolution, a societal revolution, and those always come with change. And even if it's like net wonderful, you know, there's things we're going to lose along the way. Some kinds of jobs, some kind of parts of our way of life, some parts of the way we live are going to change or go away. And no matter how tremendous the upside is there, and I believe it will be tremendously good, you know, there's a lot of stuff we got to navigate through to make sure. That's a complicated thing for anyone to wrap their heads around, and there's, you know, deep and super understandable emotions around that.
That's a very honest answer. That it's not all going to be good, but it seems inevitable at this point.
It's definitely inevitable. My view of the world, when you're like a kid in school, you learn about this technological revolution and then that one and then that one. And my view of the world now, sort of looking backwards and forwards, is that this is like one long technological revolution. And sure, like first we have to figure out agriculture, so we have the resources and time to figure out how to build machines, and then we got this industrial revolution, and that made us learn about a lot of stuff, a lot of other scientific discovery too. Let us do the computer revolution, and that's now letting us, as we scale up these massive systems, do the AI revolution. But it really is just one long story of humans discovering science and technology and co-evolving with it. And I think it's the most exciting story of all time. I think it's how we get to this world of abundance. And although we do have these things to navigate, and there will be these downsides, if you think about what it means for the world, for people's quality of lives, we can get to a world where the cost of intelligence and the abundance that comes with that, the cost dramatically falls, the abundance goes way up. I think we'll do the same thing with energy. And I think those are the two sort of key inputs to everything else we want. So if we can have abundant and cheap energy and intelligence, that will transform people's lives largely for the better. And I think it's gonna, in the same way that if we could go back now 500 years and look at someone's life, we'd say, well, there's some great things, but they didn't have this, they didn't have that. Can you believe they didn't have modern medicine? That's what people are gonna look at us
This girl was wearing it.
in 50 years.
When you think about the people that currently rely on jobs that AI will replace, when you think about whether it's truck drivers or automation workers, people that work in factory assembly lines, what, if anything, what strategies can be
Girls
put
can,
to
anyone, boys
mitigate the negative downsides of those jobs being eliminated by AI?
So I'll talk about some general thoughts, but I find making very specific predictions difficult because the way the technology goes has been so different than even my own intuitions, or certainly my own intuitions.
Maybe we should stop there and back up a little. What were your initial thoughts?
If you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, first, AI is going to come for blue-collar labor, basically. It's going to drive trucks and do factory work, and it'll handle heavy machinery. Then maybe after that, it'll do like some kinds of cognitive labor, but not. It won't be off doing what I think of personally as the really hard stuff. It won't be off proving new mathematical theorems. It won't be off, discovering new science. Won't be off writing code. And then eventually, maybe last of all, maybe never, because human creativity is this magic special thing. Last of all, it'll come for the creative jobs. That's what I would have said. Now, it looks to me like, and for a while, AI is much better at doing tasks than doing jobs. It can do these little pieces super well, but sometimes it goes off the rails. It can't keep very long coherence. So people are instead just able to do their existing jobs way more productively. But you really still need the human there today. And then B, it's going exactly the other direction. It could do the creative work first, stuff like coding second. They can do things like other kinds of cognitive labor third, and we're the furthest away from humanoid robots.
So back to the initial question. If we do have something that completely eliminates factory workers, completely eliminates truck drivers, delivery drivers, things along those lines, that creates this massive vacuum in our society.
So I think there's things that we're gonna do that are good to do but not sufficient. So I think at some point we will do something like a UBI or some other kind of very long-term unemployment insurance something, but we'll have some way of giving people, redistributing money in society as a cushion for people as people figure out the new jobs. But, maybe I should touch on that. I'm not a believer at all that there won't be lots of new jobs. I think human creativity, desire for status, wanting different ways to compete, invent new things, feel part of the community, feel valued, That's not going to go anywhere. People have worried about that forever. What happens is we get better tools and we just invent new things and more amazing things to do. And there's a big universe out there. And I think, I mean that like literally, in that there's like space is really big, but also there's just so much stuff we can all do if we do get to this world of abundant intelligence where you can sort of just think of a new idea and it gets created. But
Abundance and post-scarcity is what we're looking for here.
but again, that doesn't, to the point we started with, that doesn't provide like great solace to people who are losing their jobs today. So saying there's going to be this great indefinite stuff in the future, people are like, what are we doing today? So, you know, I think we will, as a society, do things like UBI and other ways of redistribution, but I don't think that gets at the core of what people want. I think what people want is like agency, self-determination,
Good morning,
the ability
everybody.
to play a role in
What's
architecting
good?
the future along with the rest of
Yo.
society, the ability to express themselves.
Mario, what's
and
good, bro?
create something meaningful to them.
I'm trying
And
to
also, I think a lot of people
get
work
started
jobs they
this
hate,
morning.
and I think we as a
Get my,
society are also a little bit confused
meditation
about whether
in.
we want to work more or work less. But somehow
I'm actually listening to
we all get to do something meaningful, and we all get to
I
play our
can't think
role
of his name.
in driving the future forward. That's really
Anyway, he's
important.
the
And what I
CEO
hope
of
is that as those
OpenAI,
driving
the
long-haul
company
truck
that
driving
made
jobs go away, which,
ChatGPT.
you know, people
And
have been
he's
wrong
talking
about
with Joe Rogan
predicting
about some
how fast
shit.
it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Dang, what's
We
his dude's
figure out
name? I know
not
his
just
name.
a way to solve the economic problem by like giving people the equivalent of money every month, but
Altman,
there's a
that's
way
his
that,
name. Sam
and
Altman
we've got a lot of ideas
is
about this.
like
There's
one
a
of the
way that we,
main
like,
guys
share
behind ChatGPT.
ownership and
What a lot of people don't realize too is that
a thing I say a lot about AGI.
Elon Musk invested in OpenAI to help get them started. Like he was like one of the proponents of it in the beginning. And it's called OpenAI because they wanted open source AI algorithms that everybody can use. That's why the base level for ChatGPT is free. It's a free service. You can log on to OpenAI and create your own account, and you can use their ChatGPT absolutely free. And they let you mod it, and you can get the paid service, which gives you access to the internet at the same time. And so they're just discussing like how this shit is going to revolutionize things. And I've been talking about it for years. I've been going extra hard this year once I used ChatGPT for the first time. I try to tell everybody about this shit, man. Like we're on a speed run to the next level, and this shit is crazy. I don't know. Like I just like to keep up on the news. I like to keep myself informed on this shit because this shit is really crazy. How fast our technology is moving and the implications behind it, everywhere, socially, economically, politically. Like this thing is changing everything the same way the automobile changed things. Um, the same way the airplane changed things. Uh, the last great change that we saw brought us over into the digital realm when they gave the internet to the public. The internet vastly changed everything. It changed the way we communicate, the way we share information. It changed the economy. It changed politics. And so now this is literally the next big change, and a lot of people really don't see it yet, or they're not feeling it, or they're just not paying attention to it. But artificial intelligence is the next major change. It's like I don't know. It's hard to explain. That's why I try to listen to the people who actually create this shit. You explain it to me, because I understand it, but I don't understand it. But I already know the implications behind it is tremendous. This is actually a globally, culturally, socially changing technology that soon almost everybody will have access to. And I find it fascinating.
Is that everyone realizes we're going to have to share the benefits of that, but we also have to share like the decision making over it and access to the system itself. Like I'd be more excited about a world where we say, rather than give everybody on Earth like 1/8 billionth of the AGI money, which we should do that too, we say you get like 1/8 billionth of a 1/8 billionth slice of the system. You can sell it to somebody else, you can sell it to a company, you can pool it with other people, you can use it for whatever creative pursuit you want, you can use it to figure out how to start some new business. And with that, you get sort of like a voting right over how this is all going to be used. And so the better the AGI gets, the more your little 1/8 billionth ownership is worth to you.
We were joking around the other day on the podcast where I was saying that what we need is an AI government. We should have an AI president and have AI
just make all the decisions.
Yeah, have something that's completely unbiased, absolutely rational, has the accumulated knowledge of the entire human history at its disposal, including all knowledge of psychology and psychological study, including UBI, because that comes with a host of, pitfalls and issues that people have with it.
So I'll say something there. I think we're still very far away from a system that is capable enough and reliable enough that any of us would want that. But I'll tell you something I love about that. Someday, let's say that thing gets built. The fact that it can go around and talk to every person on Earth, understand their exact preferences at a very deep level, how they think about this issue and that one, and how they balance the trade-offs and what they want, and then understand all of that and like collectively optimize for the collective preferences of humanity or of citizens of the US, that's awesome.
As long as it's not co-opted, right? Our government currently is co-opted.
That's for sure.
We know for sure that our government is heavily influenced by special interests. If we could have an artificial intelligence government that has no influence, nothing has influence on it.
What a fascinating idea.
It's possible. And I think it might be the only way where you're going to get completely objective, the absolute most intelligent decision for virtually every problem, every dilemma that we face currently in society.
Would you truly be comfortable handing over like final decision making and say, all right, AI, you got it?
No, but I'm not comfortable.
I haven't seen anything about this. Here's how close asteroids 2023 BU will come to Earth's surface. This was 8 months ago. Massive asteroid to fly past Earth this week. Live now, Fox Live. That was 3 months ago. 3 weeks ago, Apophis, the asteroid that could hit Earth in 2029. Yeah, that was 3 weeks ago. Somebody posted a video about that. Asteroid 2023 DZ2 will pass between the moon and Earth? What the fuck? This is just a short though. What the fuck? Between the moon and the Earth? No, I clicked on that. It says it's short, but that shit took me to somewhere else. What the fuck is this?
My life is essentially being on tour. How do I have tools that can leverage myself where there can be more of me getting stuff cleared in the queue as quickly as possible? We need something that transcends space and time. PDFs.
Yo, no, I haven't heard this yet. A newly discovered asteroid will zip between the Earth and the Moon this week. The asteroid named 2023 DZ2 will safely miss the Earth and the Moon by what? The sun will see a small crack-sized rock in the sky on Sunday, March the 25th. This is old, man. These are old reports. Oh man, my stomach's starting to growl. Definitely need to eat something. That's the only thing about like worrying about asteroids and
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And
what? No, I wanted to watch that one. It made me lose the video. No, so where did it go?
And this might just be like a factor.
The only thing about asteroids and comets and all of that, I don't know, man. People be laughing at different presidents who talk about having some kind of Star Wars program or some kind of space program. But that's my main thing. Like, yeah, it can be used for defense. Defense against fucking rogue goddamn rocks flying through the goddamn cosmos. That's what we need to build off-world systems for, is for protection from asteroids and comets, big ass meteors. Now I gotta look up the definition for each one, cause what is the difference between an asteroid, a comet, and a meteor? So I think, like, hold on now. Asteroids stay in space, but is it just the terminology whether it enters our atmosphere? Once an asteroid enters the atmosphere, it becomes a comet or a meteor? What the fuck? The difference between asteroids, comets, and meteors. An asteroid is a small rocky object that orbits the sun. A comet is a ball of ice and dust that orbits the sun. A meteor is a small piece of an asteroid or comet. A meteorite, okay. A meteor is a streak of light in the sky that appears when the meteorite burns up, entering Earth's atmosphere. Alright, so I know it's like the difference between if they stay in space or if they're coming through it. So a meteor, a comet is mostly ice. Asteroids are mostly rock. Meteorites are small pieces of those shits, and a meteor is if it enters the fucking atmosphere. Alright, I got it now. Yo, good morning. So somebody just told me to talk about some comets about to hit the Earth or something, like, or coming close to the Earth. So that's actually a major part of my next series that I'm working on. This happens all the time, and so that's why a lot of smart people really suggest that we get the fuck off this planet and diversify ourselves throughout the cosmos because it's gonna happen again, inevitably. There's no there's no really escaping it that our planet will be totally screwed up once another large object hits it, and it's only a matter of time. Space is full of these shits. They're always coming around, like, so it's just a matter of time. That's why I say if we do any real other space programs, because they're talking about discontinuing the International Space Station, saying that it has actually reached the end of its lifespan. Its orbit is slowly starting to degrade. So instead of letting it fall out of space and land randomly wherever, they're going to decommission it and try to land it in the ocean. And so that's going to happen in the next couple of years, I think. But they want to start building a new International Space Station. At the same time, I think we need like some major kind of asteroid defense system in space, not just space weapons so that we can fight other countries or change weather or whatever, man. We need to watch out for shit like this because it's going to happen again. Um, but yeah, somebody told me like there were some reports of some asteroids or meteors close to Earth. But only thing I saw was some stuff from like earlier this year that wasn't a really big threat. But yeah, I love the just thinking about like what if that happens? You know, people would say it's like the apocalypse or it's revelations or the end of times or whatever you want to call it, but I hope it don't happen during our lifetime or anytime soon and set us back to the motherfucking Stone Age if anybody survives. Normally somebody can survive. And I really do think that if you're religious or not, like the most recognizable account of a great reset is the flood in the Bible. But honestly, when you study other religions, like when you study the Mayans, when you study the Sumerians, when you study the Egyptian mysteries, when you study Norse gods like Odin, Middle Eastern gods like motherfucking like the Epic of Gilgamesh and all that shit, yo. Australian tales. Uh, Everybody talk about a flood. It's not just the Bible. It's not. It's not just the Bible. Everybody, every culture on every continent, even the Mesopotamians. Motherfuckers in Mesoamerica. They have stories about a great flood. So once you can get past like the religious aspect of this thing, sometimes you'll always You got a question? You good? Yo, what's good, bro? Once you can get past the religious aspect of some of these why won't let me wait? Oh, there it go. Of a lot of these stories, you'll see that there is something to it. There is something to this great reset, this great calamity, this deluge. There was definitely something to it. It's a memory that everyone shares, and it may or may not have been a comet impact or some type of extinction level event that we assumed happened to the dinosaurs, but there was definitely something there. And so What I honestly believe is is that there was this great advanced culture, right? There was this great advanced culture. But yo, something happened. Like something crazy happened and all this shit got fucked up, yo. There was some kind of great flood and that shit fucked everything up all over the globe because it was a global civilization. Just like how we know people in Asia today and people in South America today and people in fucking Canada, like it was like that already one time where it was a global civilization. That's why you got pyramids on every continent. But something happened and that shit fucked up a lot of stuff. And then uh that shit kind of like reset everything back to like Stone Age. So this is the story I'm going to be telling about this great reset. Something that happened that kind of like started everything over, but it was so long ago. The only thing we have is like these myths and these legends that seem like gods or all this other stuff when it was just like an advanced culture, an advanced civilization that barely survived. They barely survived that shit. There wasn't a lot of them that survived that shit. But the ones who did survive that shit, they came back and they were the gods that everyone talk about. And they taught us how to build shit and how to create shit. And they were giants to us. To them, they was just like normal. But to us, they were really giant people. Kind of like how you see in the movie Avatar. Like when all the damn I forgot the aliens what they call themselves, but when they're around each other, they all just look normal. They just look everything good. But then as soon as the humans walk in, the humans teeny and shit like that. What the fuck y'all doing? Way down there. So, yo, King, what's good, bro? I can start on it today. Hey, man, I can start on it today. Soon as the deposit hit the account, I get my brushes up. Up. Yeah, I get my brushes up. Soon as soon as the deposit hit the account, bro. You know how we work. I drop everything I'm doing for a commission, bro. Oh,
How you doing, Prince?
hey, good morning.
How you doing? I was just listening to the stuff you were saying about the earth and stuff. And can I ask you questions, okay?
Sure.
Okay, a lot of people say, the earth gonna, be destroyed and stuff. So let me ask you something. You love your painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, say for instance, somebody come in there and destroy one of your painting. What would you do? Would you put a stop to it, or you just go ahead and destroy it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try my best to put a stop to it.
What you say, Prince?
I said I'm gonna try my best to put a stop to him from destroying my artwork.
Okay, so I think about the earth. It's not the earth causing the price; it was on the earth, the people, right? And you did bring something about the Bible. If you look in the Bible, it talks about he did not create earth for nothing. So if he's not going to stand there and let man destroy the earth, because if you get sick, friends, you don't want to die, do you?
Nobody wants to die, but we are gonna have to die.
But why we create the earth? Just like that painting, you create or you paint, you put hard work in that painting,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that painting. You said like you're gonna stop it from destroying your painting, right? Do you think God gonna allow men to destroy the earth?
No, that's not what I was saying. I was saying if there's an external threat. I was talking about comets and asteroids and meteorites. That has nothing to do with man. That's just how the solar system works.
I misunderstood your question. I'll just think about it. No, let me show you something. Can I show you something?
Sure.
Can you see that?
It's backwards. Can our planet survive by what? Reasons for hope? Okay, I can see it. Yeah, it's backwards. Okay, oh
I
wait.
agree with one time, but what I'm getting ready to say is that, a lot of people, they don't know what the world going to come to. But you look at, you did bring up the Bible. And the Bible says in Psalm 37, verse 9 to 10, that the wicked one going to be destroyed. It's not about the earth. And like you say, don't nobody want to die, because God didn't create man to die. He created man to live on the earth. If Adam and Eve had not sinned, where would they be at today? They would be on the earth.
Yeah, but I don't know. Why did God allow Adam and Eve to sin?
Oh, that's a good question. He didn't allow them to sin. When he created Adam, he told Adam he have anything he want on that in that Garden of Eden. Just like do you have any children?
Yes.
How many children you have?
One.
Okay. Say you had one child and you had a nephew of your house. And you tell your oldest nephew they can have anything they want on that table. Don't bother my Snicker bar.
Mm-hmm.
Now you tell that nephew to tell your son that. Okay, but your nephew tell your son, it's gonna be okay. You go ahead and get off that.
No, because already we're already. I said that's not correct, because we're already more logical than that as parents. So if you don't want your toddler to stick a fork into the outlet, you don't keep forks around, and you don't keep the outlet accessible to the toddler. If you don't want your nephew or your son to not eat your Snicker bar, you don't put it out for them to get it. You put it somewhere and put it up so they can't reach it.
Okay,
and so now you don't leave something readily accessible to them and then say, hey, don't touch it. You don't put all your dog treats on the floor in front of your dog and then tell the dog, don't eat all the treats. It don't work like that, because even as humans, we're already more logical than God seems in that situation. And then also, how does the tree have more power than God? The tree itself is able to change man in a way that God cannot reverse, or God cannot have an effect on. And then why does God give this tree the ability to change his creation from what the original source code was, and then put the creation in front of this magical tree that can alter it, and then tell it don't touch it? It just is not, it's not logical from the first thought of it. It just doesn't make sense. And then I've read it. I've read the Bible.
But what I'm saying is that he created man to live on earth forever, not to die.
Yeah,
See,
and that's what.
Told Adam about the tree.
Yeah.
He have any tree he want, but just don't touch this.
It just don't make sense.
Satan, the devil, went and told Eve that it's so. So she went and told her husband, what Satan said. Adam ate off that tree. But he had ate off that tree, Prince. They'll be here today.
What was wrong with eating off the tree?
What you say now?
What was wrong with eating off the tree?
He had all the other trees out there.
But what?
Job told him not to trust that tree.
What happened?
We disobeyed God. He punished them.
What happened when they ate off the tree?
With the tree?
What happened when they ate from the tree?
They disobeyed God and they got punished for it.
No, when they ate from the tree, they gained the knowledge of good and evil, and they knew their nakedness. And so God. And what it's basically saying is God just wanted two absent-minded puppets to be in his garden, but he didn't want them to have knowledge of self and understanding, and he didn't want them to live forever, because man wasn't going to live forever. He wasn't supposed to. There was the other tree, the tree of life, and God said, since they have partaken of the tree of knowledge, and they have become like us, and now they understand good and evil, we must cast them out of the garden before they partake of the tree of life and live until time indefinite. He didn't want man to live forever. If we partook of the first tree, now we have knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And if we would have gotten to that second tree, we would have eternal life in the flesh, and we would have been able to live forever. And he cast us out of the garden and placed cherubim with spinning swords of fire, so that we may not enter the garden again. And he said, you will toil the earth, and it will be hard, and you will have pains and labor, because we understood who we were. That's the harshest punishment for the first people that you created. The very first people you created. And you gave them the harshest punishment because you tempted them with something that you could have put somewhere else or not even had in the garden.
But let me ask you something, Prince. Why would he tell them not to eat off that tree? If he wanted them to die, why would he tell them not to eat off that tree? Because like you just said something in the beginning, don't nobody want to die. Because, you get sick, you going to the doctor. Why would God put that desire in our heart to live and not fulfill that road? Just like with Jesus Christ. He came out here to die for mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted man to die, then why he sent his son down here, to pay that ransom that what Adam did? Because you look in the Bible, he said he didn't create the earth for nothing. Just like that pain you do. You create that pain for people to enjoy looking at. Yeah. And I know a lot about your pain, Prince. I see your pain a lot. You pay a lot of happiness on your pain, don't you?
You said what?
When you be doing a lot of pain, you do like a lot of happiness.
Oh, I try to make my paintings as positive as possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sensation of like happiness to have a positive image, because most of the time a lot of my artwork has very like negative imagery in it, in a beautiful way though. Just like the titles of a lot of these books always stir up emotions of anger for me, honestly. And my reader series started out of anger because I felt like I was kept in the dark about a lot of information. Nobody ever told me to read any of these books. Nobody ever gave me access to any of this literature. And once I had to find it myself, I was angry and upset. And I didn't know what else to do. And so I started painting them into my artworks. So expressing expressing it in my art is still like purposely putting like a frustration and a discontent initially to start with. So I don't try to hide it. I don't try to hide it.
I know some people, they do like you said, like you can go through painting. Some people do it through song. But you know, the thing is that the Bible, you know, was created for man because the Bible has all our answers. And it says in the Bible that he didn't destroy, he didn't make the earth for nothing. Because I know you know the Lord's Prayer, don't you? I remember saying the Lord's Prayer when I was real small, but I didn't know what that prayer meant. You remember the Lord's Prayer?
Our Father who art in heaven.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know that one.
It said, let your kingdom come where?
Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
What is we praying for, Prince?
I don't really pray.
Well, I know, but what do that prayer mean?
Well, they pray for everlasting life
Where?
in heaven.
It said, let your kingdom come on earth. What is heaven like? It's peaceful there, ain't
That's how they describe it.
no, that's how the Bible describes. Ain't nobody went to heaven. But Jesus came back. But it said, let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven.
No, Enoch went to heaven.
Let your will take place. It's God's will for to solve mankind problem. And like you said through that pain, I'm listening to you, your frustration. The Bible said we can live forever on this earth. So we asking God to answer that prayer, that your will be done on the earth. Let your kingdom come on the earth as it is in heaven. And when Jesus Christ was on the earth, he demonstrated that. When people died, he woke them up. He fed the hungry. He took care of the sick.
So so Jesus not the first person to come back from the dead, because he rose somebody else from the dead.
Yes.
So he not special like that.
What man went to heaven came back and said something about heaven?
Enoch.
Enoch, he went to heaven?
Yeah.
Where is it at? Show me, right text it to me. I can look it up, okay?
It's in Genesis. When they start listing, I'll find the exact verse, but at the end of Genesis, they start listing everybody's name and how old they were before they died, and it said Enoch lived to be so many years old, and God took him and he walked with God. It didn't say he died. Everybody else, in everybody else's name, it says, Adam lived for X amount of years and then he died. And Noah lived for X amount of years and then he died. And it said Enoch lived for this many years and then God took him. It didn't say he died. It's saying that he walked with God, and then Enoch came back and gave mathematics to man after he went to heaven with God and God showed him some things. That was before Jesus.
When you get a chance, just text it to me.
I'll text it to you. I got you.
Okay, let me show you. Let me show you one thing. I want to show you my art. Hold on, that's why I got on your thing. I just want to show you my art. You see that? Hold on.
I like that. Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Hold on for a minute. Oh shoot, hold on. Can you see that?
Put the camera down somewhere. I can just see the top part.
Okay, hold on for a minute. Let me see. I put it up here.
I see the
Can
hair.
you see it now?
Okay, yeah, I seen the hair. Okay, that's really good.
I draw her.
Who's that?
Somebody draw out a book.
Okay.
One day I had went to the doctor office. I'm not going to keep it. I know you're busy. Last month I was in there drawing in the hospital. There was a lot of people looking at me. They said, "You good?" And they told me how mom do something. They told me I'm doing for just for enjoyment.
That's it. That's all we need it for.
They said I've come a long way though.
Yeah, I mean, no, your freehand is really good, really, really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that with you, and I enjoyed talking to you though.
I know. I enjoy talking to you as well. I love a good conversation.
So we maybe still keep in touch because like I said, I've been looking at your art a lot. You real good.
Thank you. Thank you. Mhm. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and back and focus on this, and I'll talk with you later on.
Okay, thank you, Prince. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye bye. Thank you for tuning me in.
Oh, no problem.
Bye bye.
Oh, how do I do this? I don't know how to I don't know. I don't know how to get the screen back. Oh, there it goes. Oh, damn. Optimus was in here. I should have showed you some details up close on that painting. My bad. I was, uh, oh, my bad, bro. I got you. All right. I'm ending this Instagram now. That was, that was weird. um, all right. So let's, hit me up on Instagram, bro. Hazy, if you still in here, my bad. I apologize. This man trying to give me some money, and I'm up here having a discussion about Adam and Eve while I'm trying to paint in the dark. I was wondering what was on just now. But yeah. Um, You got my Instagram right there. Just say hi or whatever in the message. Do you have Instagram? I can give you my email. My email is Travis Prince 81 at Yahoo. If you don't got that social media, I know some of y'all guys don't be fucking with that social media shit, man. I feel like I gotta do it. I like it, but I feel like I gotta do it too. But I like it. Yeah, you don't lie. It's and I know it's like it's a drug, and I'm slightly addicted to it. You know, because I check that shit every day. But at the same time, it's definitely a good way to get plugged in with galleries and businesses, because everybody else trying to advertise their shit on there. So I guess I almost feel like you just gotta have a social media. I was watching this documentary on Banksy, but in the beginning they were talking about, so Banksy, this nigga from London somewhere or Bristol or I forgot, man. Somewhere over by London. I think it is Bristol. But like a fucking graffiti breaking hip hop, that's like all Northeast American shit, bro. Like hardcore. That shit was like, somebody said it. I only heard one person in that shit say it. One person said it one time. Said that graffiti actually started in Philly. And I've never heard that. I've never ever heard that. Graffiti. I thought that shit was like some Bronx, Brooklyn shit. But it was like, nah. Graffiti started in Philly, yo. That shit went over to New York, and then the New York motherfuckers just went stupid with it. But then they said back in the day there was this documentary, like the first documentary trying to really catch like this underground culture about tagging and shit, and how that shit evolved from just like stupid looking, well, not stupid looking, but like very simple stick letter tags, and then it went to the burners and all that shit, like getting more grandiose. And then but they say that fucking documentary hit the UK and just ignited a whole fucking flame over that shit when those kids figured it out. But they say Banksy was young. He was I guess me and him are close to the same age. Like, cause he said like that first wave of graffiti era, like he was a kid during that shit. You know, he ain't get into that shit until like the 90s or something. And 90s, I was in middle school and high school in the 90s. So maybe like I don't even really know how old this motherfucker is, but they say like over there he was like one of the first people to really like change graffiti into like something different, man. Cause his style is more like poetic street art and not just like I don't know. His shit just different, yo. Banksy shit is different. I gotta watch this clip again. I know this one time this motherfucker did this painting, and I forgot what museum it was, but like some grandiose, prestigious museum like the Louvre or some dumb shit. This motherfucker went in there as just a regular tourist. I mean, like a museum goer, and he had on a fucking trench coat. Then while he's walking through the museum, yo, I just gotta see it one more time. Yo, this motherfucker pulled his own painting out of his trench coat, and that shit got like some adhesive, sticky tape on the back or something, and he puts that shit on the fucking wall in the museum, like just on this little nice little space, and he puts his own painting up there and just leaves it, and like I think like people didn't notice that shit for a long ass time. Like motherfuckers didn't even notice that shit. Yo, they really thought like, oh, this is a beautiful work of art. Mm.
And pull out that famous debacle. Do you guys notice anything strange about that C-17? Let's watch that full clip and see if you can notice it. Do you see it? Blacked out windows, blacked out engines. Here's a little bit more. See, this is what a C-17 that's not an inflatable looks like. See the windows clearly, see the engines clearly, and now look again for some more fakery. Take all the time you need. Fake news, fake history, fake clown world. We are living on nothing more than a big giant stage.
What the fuck?
By those in charge. Made to instill fear to easily control the masses or to invoke fake outrage for whatever they want us to. Just wait till you see how fake the clowns are that run the show. Question everything, friend. The world is indeed a stage.
Wait a minute.
Just how much of it might be a bit surprising.
What the fuck?
So you all remember this famous scene right here. The Afghan pullout. That famous debacle. Do you guys notice anything strange about that C-17? Let's watch that full clip and see if you can notice it. Do you see it? Blacked out windows, blacked out engines. Here's a little bit more. See, this is what a C-17 that's not an inflatable looks like. See the windows clearly, see the engine.
How to get your girl.
What do you think about Mike Tyson's face tattoos?
I think ugly. I mean.
Thank you. You all can go back to your seat. Thank you. Thank you. You all can go back to your seat. Thank you.
Young got no one that been calling me splurge. Let me jump right on the curb. Young got no one that been calling.
These people and the tips come back and it's like 10%.
I got it. I got it. I got the corner. I got it already. You know I can't have my dog, right? What's up, bro? This my girl Lex, bro. What's up? Oh my god. Oh, yo, I haven't seen you since. Yo, you know she's from Toronto, right? She's from my city, bro. She was just telling me that. You got good taste. You got a real one, for real. It does not get much better. Yeah, did y'all go to school? What is that? No, we just know each other from, you know. Yeah. We just know each other.
The city.
What's up? What's up? What you drinking? Mm-hmm. Oh, what's that? Lemon drop? No. Yeah, lemon drop type nigga, like, you know? Alright, I'm about to go pay this. I got you. I got you. Dog, man. I hope you had a good night, right? I'll see you when we get home. Yes? Good to see you. Oh, Sonny, good? Hey. What's up, man? You don't even have a handshake. I don't even know this nigga like that. This is my brother right here. Yeah. What's up, guys? Champagne? Moet? Not yet, it's parents. You get all this chrome from us. You know Chrome Arts, right? Man, we be resizing that shit, all that shit. That's what you know we do with Odell. Like,
Why this nigga stupid as fuck, yo?
Okay,
Such thing as toxic masculinity.
we watching Mulholland Drive. Angelina Jolie, we saw your boobs in Gia. They made us feel excited and alive. And Hathaway, we saw your boobs in Brokeback Mountain. Halle Berry, we saw them in Monsters Ball. Nicole Kidman and Eyes Wide Shut. Marissa Tomei and The Wrestler, but we haven't seen Jennifer Lawrence's boobs at all. We saw your boobs. We saw your boobs. In the movie that we saw your boobs. Kristen Stewart, we saw your boobs in On the Road, and in Monster, we saw Charlize Theron's. Helen Hunt, we saw them in The Sessions, and Scarlett Johansson, we saw them on our phones. Jessica Chastain, we saw your boobs in Lawless, Jodie Foster in The Accused. Hilary Swank in Boys Don't Cry, Penelope Cruz in Vanilla Sky, and Kate Winslet in Heavenly Creatures and Jude, and Hamlet, and Titanic, and Iris, and Little Children, and The Reader, and whatever you're shooting right now. We saw we watching Mulholland Drive. Angelina Jolie, we saw your boobs in Gia. They made us feel excited and in Mulholland Drive. Angelina Jolie, we saw your boobs alive. And Hathaway, we saw your boobs in Brokeback Mountain. Halle Berry, we saw them in Monsters Ball. Nicole.
What the fuck?
If you have a
We watching Mulholland Drive. We watching Mulholland Drive. Angelina Jolie, we saw your boobs in Gia. They made us feel excited and alive.
That's crazy.
Angelina Jolie.
We saw your boobs. Alright, I hate when I get stuck on the thing like that and stop painting. No, I know I was still on Instagram. I was saying if you was gonna send me an Instagram. Oh, is that it? That's it. Alright. And literally, no matter, bro. So, if I go to my notes folder, I got like a standard reply. Some people like, you just type that shit up fast as hell. Like, nah, I got a standard reply. Where's my, hold on. And that email is my PayPal. What do you say? Cash App though, right? Cash App. My Cash App, bro. When you send it though, yo, did you Now I just heard this shit the other day. The IRS is getting on everybody. Um, on these mobile apps like this. Yo, they cracking down hard. They say if you earn more than $600 a year on this app, you gotta claim that shit on your taxes, and they're gonna deduct that shit. So, and Cash App is definitely one of those apps where they're trying to hit people on that shit. So, when you send the money, don't send it like a business transaction. Whatever's it say friends and family or a gift or whatever, however they word that shit, where it's not like a business. Because yeah, they trying to catch motherfuckers, man. Matter of fact, what does it say? Because I normally send money through PayPal, and I never send it as a I never send it as some kind of business, whatever. So it says send as cash, gift card, stock, Bitcoin. But if I click on as gift card, Uber, okay, so damn, I've never done that before. And then, okay, send as cash, but that doesn't give me any other option to change it. Then it says send as a different kind of stock, no. And Bitcoin, no. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't even know how to I don't even know how to change that setting to something different. I don't know.
Spit it out. Now, what did we learn?
I don't know how to describe it, yeah? Feels like there's like a metal rod at the back of my throat. Let's give it a go, sir.
Clearly nothing, because she about to eat another one. Now I see why it's called Black Death. She about to meet her maker, Lord have mercy.
It's called Black Death.
It's called Black what?
It is the most saddest candy in the world. Warning! Not suitable for anyone under 8 years of age.
Yeah, keep that inside the plastic.
Yeah, keep that inside the class.
This is how they look. It's called Black Death. That looks so scary.
I don't know why she didn't swipe.
And now we're back, and there's no pilots to be found, and there's no answer.
Even though they told us 3 hours ago that the pilot.
Do not ride Spirit. They suck.
Girl, you was on Spirit. That was sold separately. Your $29 didn't cover the pilot. You had to go back to your cart. When they ask you those questions before you check out, they trying to have you upgrade. You didn't upgrade. Y'all didn't upgrade to get the pilot. So y'all better figure out. If you go to YouTube, they got some tutorials on how to start one of those things up. Y'all can make it. Y'all probably can make it. Y'all probably done missed a couple flights, but y'all can make it tomorrow if y'all do the tutorials.
And now we're back, and there's no pilots.
Yo, this is why this shit be tripping me out sometimes, because yo, black people be funny as fuck.
You can't do that. So get the out of the way. A Washington State police officer is suspended after posting a controversial video to TikTok. If us officers stay behind you long enough, we can find a reason to pull you over. So you might as well get the out of the way. The since-deleted TikTok was created by Federal Way police officer Brianna Strauss, who said it was a public service announcement for other drivers. PSA to everyone out there. I'm speaking for myself, but I'm probably speaking for a large majority of other officers out there. If we're driving on the freeway in our police car, get the out of the way. Get the out of the way. In the 38-second clip, Strauss tells the viewers, quote, I can go 90 miles per hour. You can't. She also says officers will find a way to pull someone over. If us officers stay behind you long enough, we can find a reason to pull you over. So you might as well get the out of the way. While the video was removed from TikTok, it made waves across the internet when a Reddit user posted a screen recording of the video. If you merge and we follow behind you and we merge too, you're probably in trouble. Best way to find that out is get the out of the way. In a statement to local media, the Federal Way Police Department said in part, quote, we have viewed the social media video posted by Officer Strauss and can assure you that it does not represent the core values and practices of our police department.
It does.
Strauss later received a 10-hour suspension without pay. I can go 90 miles an hour. You can't.
10 hours
You can't do
suspension?
that. So get the out of the way. A Washington State police
What the
officer
fuck
is
is a 10-hour
suspended after
suspension?
posting a controversial
one shift?
video to TikTok. If us officers stay behind you long enough, we can find a reason to pull you over.
I would have gave her a 40-hour suspension.
They tell you.
Just found out women have rights. Take them away. We don't deserve them. Just found out women have rights. Take them away. We don't deserve them.
Who are you? What are those?
face like a Wakanda mask, welcome to Wakanda, and snip on all these pheromones you're not gonna need. If you
What the fuck?
Good. My name's Lily Patterson, going to Texas A&M, get your marriage.
My name's Kevin Murphy, I'm going to Oklahoma University.
Damn good old deal, man. I tell you what, $100 a month, man. You get them hook up, you get them old dang two-top jiggle around everywhere and whatnot, man. Nothing but a damn trash, man. I tell you what, man.
Good. My name's Lily Patterson, going to Texas A&M, get your marriage.
My name's Kevin Murphy, I'm going to Oklahoma University.
Damn good old deal, man. I tell you what, $100 a month, man. You get them hook up, you get them old dang two-top jiggle around everywhere and whatnot, man. Nothing but a damn trash, man. I tell you what, man.
Good. My name's Lily Patterson, going to Texas A&M, get your marriage.
My name's Kevin Murphy, I'm going to Oklahoma University.
Damn good old deal, man. I tell you what, $100 a month, man. You get them hook up, you get them old dang two-top jiggle around everywhere and whatnot, man. Nothing but a damn trash, man. I tell you what, man.
Yo, why the hell they sound just like that motherfucker,
Lily
yo?
Patterson, going to Texas A&M, get your marriage.
My name's Kevin Murphy, I'm going to Oklahoma University.
Integration. You like to suck dick?
I want to hear her answer though. I can't.
Top 3 things I like to do.
What?
Yeah. If I'm talking too much, just put a dick in there.
I like that for you, me. I like that for Price. We're going.
No, America really could never. And I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. First of all, there's no trash on the streets of Japan. It's actually disrespectful to eat and walk. You get your food, you sit down to really enjoy the food, enjoy the culture. So there's no trash cans on the street because it's like, well, why would you need one? Another thing, before every meal, you're given a hot towel just to clean your hands and wipe off your day before you dig in. Tipping is also not a thing. They will look at you crazy if you try to hand them some extra money. Another thing, every restaurant has a place for you to set your bags, your purses, whatever. Y'all know the purses can't go on the ground. And this restaurant actually covers your belongings. Another thing, smart mirrors. When you get out the shower, there's a section of the mirror that doesn't fog up so you can still see yourself. Another thing, every single toilet is a bidet. Every toilet has a pressure wash that cleans your booty hole. Yes, it is clean. Even the public restrooms and the ones in the hotel have heated toilet seats. Another thing, their malls have bowling alleys. I think that's so cute. Also, you wash and dry your hands in the same sink. Another thing, they really value their shit here. So the yen doesn't touch the counter. It doesn't touch the ground. It's always placed on top of a tray when doing a transaction. And it's handled with both hands. Another thing, my phone was finna die. I bought me a portable charger for $5. This is literally $40 on Amazon. Another thing, people are so nice and well-mannered. We were lost in the train station and God sent us an English-speaking angel who guided us to where we needed to go and told us how to navigate the Japanese train station. No, America really could never. And I'm gonna tell you a couple reasons why. First of all, there's no
I definitely want to go to Japan.
Carl fainted. He hit the ground hard. I'm really worried about him. I think he might be in shock, sir. Nah, I think it...
This is called black.
All right, let me focus on this.
Systems all day and watching all of the ways they fail. We got a long way to go.
A long way to go, I'm sure. But when you think of AGI, when you think of the possible future, like where it goes to, do you ever extrapolate? Do you ever like sit and pause and say, well, if this becomes sentient and it has the ability to make better versions of itself, how long before we're literally dealing with a god?
So the way that I think about this is it used to be that like AGI was this very binary moment. It was before and after, and I think I was totally wrong about that. And the right way to think about it is this continuum of intelligence, this smooth exponential curve, back all the way to that sort of smooth curve of technological revolution. The amount of compute power we can put into the system, the scientific ideas about how to make it more efficient and smarter, to give it the ability to do reasoning, to think about how to improve itself, that will all come. But my model for a long time, I think if you look at the world of AGI thinkers, there's sort of two, particularly around the safety issues you're talking about, there's two axes that matter. There's the what's called short timelines or long timelines, to the first milestone of AGI, whatever that's going to be. Is that going to happen in a few years, a few decades, maybe even longer? Although at this point, I think most people are a few years or a few decades. And then there's takeoff speed. Once we get there, from there to that point you were talking about where it's capable of the rapid self-improvement, is that a slow or a fast process? The world that I think we're in, and also the world that I think is the most controllable and the safest, is the short timelines and slow takeoff quadrant. And I think we're going to have, there were a lot of very smart people for a while where like the thing you were just talking about happens in a day or 3 days. And that doesn't seem likely to me given the shape of the technology as we understand it now. Now, even if that happens in a decade or 3 decades, it's still like the blink of an eye from a historical perspective. And there are going to be some real challenges to getting that right. And the decisions we make, the sort of safety systems and the checks that the world puts in place, how we think about global regulation or rules of the road from a safety perspective for those projects, it's super important because you can imagine many things going horribly wrong. But I feel cheerful about the progress the world is making towards taking this seriously. And, it reminds me of what I've read about the conversations that the world had right around the development of nuclear weapons.
Oh my mercy. I think I may have to actually get a new brush.
Sparkle to any design with glitter stickers by Sticker Mule. Glitter stickers are a fun way to showcase your artwork, promote your brand, or bedazzle the ordinary. Each sticker is printed in full color on a glitter-like material that will make your artwork truly shine. To get started, select a size and quantity, upload your artwork, and check out.
No, thank you. Or do I have, would this brush be suitable or no? I don't know if I have a thin enough brush anymore. The one I'm using was the thinnest one I have, but now it's not anymore because of me. I could probably try this one.
Ray Dalio recently said the next 5 years will be a period of radical disorder. Money printing, rising inflation, a potential banking crisis, and a whole lot of debt threaten to shock the global markets. And many people, including today's guest, believe that something approximating World War III has already begun. But even if that's all true, we can't control it. Whatever hand we're dealt, we have to figure out a way to play it well. So I bring you Arthur Hayes, the controversial macro investor who's going to provide a masterclass on navigating these difficult times. What are the signs that you see on the horizon that a financial crisis might be headed our way?
I absolutely agree there's going to be a major financial crisis, probably as bad or worse than the Great Depression sometime near the end of the decade. Before we get there, we're going to have, I think, the largest bull market in stocks, real estate, crypto, art, you name it, that we've ever seen since World War II. And the reason I believe that is if we back up to like 1945, essentially Europe blew itself up, China was destroyed by a civil war, and in Japan, Russia essentially fought the war for everybody else, and massive destruction. So if you look across the world, the only country that was left was the U.S. And they had a manufacturing base that was unharmed from the war, and they essentially rebuilt the war and reaped enormous benefits. And we're still, people who are American are still living off of those benefits today. But at the end of the day, everybody started believing this thing called, Keynesian economics, which basically is if something gets in trouble, the government should rush in, spend money. If they don't have the money, the central bank should print it. And, everybody collectively in the world, no matter if you're, what sort of ism you believe in, subscribe to this theory. And what that means is, we all have collectively agreed that the government is there essentially to attempt to remove the business cycle. Like there should never be bad things that happen to the economy. And if there are, we want the government to come in and essentially destroy the free market. So every time we've had a financial crisis over the last, 80 years, what happens, the government rushes in and they essentially destroy some part of the free market because they want to, save the system. And what does that mean? It's like whack-a-mole. So every time there's a disturbance, the central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the US, they come in, they print money, they enact a bunch of regulations, and they basically say, okay, we don't want this sector to fail. We don't want, the creative destruction that is so-called, capitalism, if you actually believe in that. We don't want that. And every, 5-7 years, there's another sector of the economy that's essentially price fixed. And so we've gotten to this point where, globally, central banks have basically destroyed the free pricing mechanism in just about every single sector of the financial economy, except for one, which is the government bond markets, because they're so large, so unruly that it's practically impossible to essentially remove the market forces from this part of the market. But the problem is right now we're going to try. We've gone from 100% debt to GDP globally to about 360% as per the World Bank, and we are accelerating the amount of debt that we're adding onto the pile. Why? Because in the rich world, including China, Russia, and Brazil, we've stopped having enough kids. So the population is actually declining. So if you have all this debt and you don't have more humans being born to essentially do stuff to pay it back, the only way to ensure the system is solvent is for the governments and the central banks to start printing money. And now we've gotten to the situation where we have all this debt that needs to be rolled over. We have a population that has been told that, hey, you're good. Anything ever happens, we, the government, are going to come in and we're going to make sure that, you have enough food to eat, you got health care, we're going to protect you, blah, 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 right? And all that's expensive, especially as you have less humans who are doing productive stuff. And so we're just going to keep adding on debt because that's the only way the government can stay in business. And now we've gotten to the situation where there's so much debt and it's accelerating in an exponential fashion, that in order to save the market this time, right? So in the next 3 to 6 months, there's going to be some sort of major market disturbance, and probably in the U.S. Treasury or other large global bond markets.
So many good technology suppliers out there today. Many organizations struggle when it comes to selecting the right technology suppliers for their projects. Sound like a familiar problem? ARC Advisory Group offers a family of star suppliers.
And the solution is going to be, let's print the most money that we've ever printed to try to save essentially this fiat financial system that we created since World War II, which is going to, in the first instance, create a massive bull market in anything, like stocks, crypto, real estate, things that have a fixed supply. Maybe they're productive, they have some earnings. And then after that, we're going to find out, actually, the government can't save everything. They can't just print as much money as they think to try to save themselves and fix the price of the yield of their bonds. and we're going to get a generational collapse. And hopefully that doesn't coincide with a major global conflict. Usually it does. I hope it doesn't, because I don't really want to live through World War III while I'm alive. But that's sort of my overarching macro cycle thesis. So, massive top 2026 timeframe, and then some sort of Great Depression like situation happening towards the end of the decade. If we want to take a look at the progress of human civilization in the past 150, 200 years, it's all predicated on hydrocarbons. The moment we started extracting oil commercially out of the ground and turning it into thousands of different products that we all use every day that basically powers our modern life, development supercharged, right? We went from, I don't know how many billions of people in the 1970s to today, the population more than doubled, right? And that's all because we were able to harness this particular type of potential energy of the earth that's underneath us. Okay, and we piled on all this debt, we brought forward all this future growth, and we haven't really innovated on another form of energy that makes us that much more productive. Maybe if the world started adopting nuclear today, immediately, like small nuclear reactors in our cars, our apartments powered by nuclear energy, maybe we'd have a chance at growing our way out of this debt. Or, if there's some magical alien that comes down and gives us, some basic resource that allows us to tap a new source of energy and we can commercialize it instantaneously, yes, then we can pay back all this money. Or if the population doubled overnight, right, to 16 billion people, then okay, great. We built all this stuff. There's more people that need to use it. Okay, we can pay back this debt. But barring any of these, I like to say it takes 18 years to make an 18-year-old. So it's pretty much impossible to create humans out of thin air, no matter what any politician tells you. And, we're not really, what we seem to be doing is, in certain countries, is saying, hydrocarbons are worthless. We want to use these other forms of energy that are less dense, less productive, and somehow think that we're going to grow our way out of this debt, which is mathematically impossible. There's just no other way, if the government wants to save itself by it, than printing money. And printing money isn't growth. It's just a piece of paper out of thin air. And once the population thinks, hey, there's more and more of these pieces of paper floating around, there's only so many real goods. There's only so much oil. There's only so much electricity. Well, I guess I should be consuming everything I can now. That's not actually generating real growth. If we could just print our money and generate real growth, then Rome would have survived. Zimbabwe would be the richest country in the world. Same with Argentina. We've had, the Weimar Republic in Germany. If this was the answer, there's plenty of other, societies that have tried this, and the result was always the same: massive inflation, and then social unrest and collapse of the government. So I think we've proven over thousands of years of human history that printing money is not growth. It's a chimera, and at the party it lasts for only so long, and then it's bad news bears.
This is the thing that really freaks me out about what Ray Dalio is talking about, is the predictability of the cycle. And what I want to do, you're really good at explaining this. I want to go through the different things that build up to this moment, this inevitable moment. And then one of the things I want to make sure we talk about later is getting the timing right on this is next to impossible. And so that's going to loom in the background. But first, I just want to go through the things. Now, you said that you hope that this doesn't all happen in a moment of political instability, but I would like to quote Arthur Hayes here real fast. This is the opening line from one of your recent articles. You said, World War III has already begun, whether the mainstream media and political elite wish to acknowledge it or not. So let's talk about the political instability. We're going to get to the debt.
Not how you would have done it. You bundle things right, and that saves you up to 10% on your USAA home and auto insurance. Get a quote today.
Experience illuminated cleaning in your modern home with powerful Dyson suction and scientific proof of a deep clean, pioneering Dyson technology. Find the right vacuum for your home.
banking crisis, inflation, all of that. But set the context for us right now. What's happening right now that unnerves you from a political standpoint?
So for whatever reason, and I don't know why, Western Europe starting and then America following has it in for Russia. And if you read I think it's Mackinder, his global home island theory that he wrote, I want to say in the early 20th or end of the 19th century, whatever. He was a very famous war strategist, and he basically said that the home island is essentially Eurasia, right? So think of China, Russia, Western Europe, right? Whoever controls that portion of the world controls the world. And so if you think about the naval powers such as Great Britain and the US, let's talk about Great Britain first, right? What was the British foreign policy all about in the 19th century and early 20th century? Preventing a strong continent. Whether it was France or Germany, they didn't care. They just don't want a unified Europe. Now, as Russia industrialized in the late 19th century, they started to worry about, okay, well, what about Russia, right? We can't have an alliance of strong Germany after Bismarck, united Germany, and Russia, because Russia has all these commodities. That would be the worst thing that could ever happen for us, Great Britain and naval powers. So what do they do? This, a series of alliances that precipitated World War I, which was, let's make sure that Germany and Russia are not friends. And essentially, that was a strategy going into World War I. Obviously that blew up. What was the strategy in World War II? If you take a look at the rise of Hitler and all the different Western powers that were okay with Hitler as long as he was going to turn his army and just fight Russia, right? Hitler wrote about this. He said, we want to create the space for the German people to essentially eradicate the Slavs in Russia and go in there. And the Western Europe was perfectly happy about that because, again, what do they want? They don't want a united home island. They don't want a united Eurasia because that threatens the hegemon, Great Britain at the time. Obviously, that didn't work out so well. Hitler turned his army on the other half of Europe, and then everybody started fighting again. And then we ended that war. And then what we were left with the United States versus Russia again. And again, it was all about, let's make sure that, Russia and China aren't aligned, or Russia and the rest of Russian Europe aren't aligned. That's why, the U.S. poured however many billions of dollars through the Marshall Plan into rebuilding Western Europe to make sure it was a bulwark against Russia and the virus of communism. And, I forgot, I was reading a recent book, it's called The Wars of Asia, 1911 to 1949. And the author made a very good point about why communism is so hated as a form of government to anything that's not communism. And the reason it is because, obviously communism has its flaws, but the kernel of truth for lots of people is we're going to completely uproot the social system. We're going to replace the classes that are oppressing us. It's not like, okay, it's one class of elites who was running things, we're going to go over to this other class of elites, which is like socialism, fascism, capitalism. It's just one group of elites versus the other. Communism is, let's destroy the whole class of elites and bring the people up to power. Now, obviously, that never actually happens, but in the beginning it does. And so if you're a bourgeois intellectual and, and one of these other systems, you're like, I can't have communism take over. I can't have the actual workers rise up, replace me as an entire class, and then try to rule, which is why they hate communism so much. And so, the Russian system and what they're trying to export in terms of ideology is so hated in the liberal democratic or pseudo-fascist West. In any case, the U.S. has now locked the heads with Russia to make sure that a divided Eurasia, because a strong Eurasia will control the world because it controls most of the natural resources of the world and most of the population. And that's been the U.S. foreign policy since the end of World War II. Fast forward to the 90s when the Soviet Union collapses, the U.S. response was not, let's do another Marshall Plan and rebuild Russia. It was, let's incentivize a bunch of former gangsters, now called oligarchs, to come in and take all the natural resources, impoverish their people, and move their wealth to London and New York, right? And so that was the policy. Now, out of that came, essentially Putin, who was all about, let's build a strong Revisionist, the Russian ideal. Believe it or not, whether you think that's good or bad, but that's his appeal to the Russian people is, hey, you guys suffered through the end of the Soviet Union. The West was not your friend. They stole your shit. I'm here to rebuild the Russian for the Russian people. Believe it, that's his message to his constituents. You can like it or not like it. And so now we're at the situation where Russia invades Ukraine, and the West is pumping in resources to essentially fight them using the blood and tears of the Ukrainian people. It's not Americans fighting. It's not European, NATO Europeans fighting yet, right? So it's a proxy war between Russia and the West. Obviously, Russia is tacitly supported by China, and the rest of the world is like, well, we don't want to be part of this. We're trying to be non-aligned. We don't want to get involved in this thing. So we have this sort of a setup of all over again of what was happening in the late 19th century of the West aligning to create a divided Eurasia. And so, we can call it a conflict or a skirmish or whatever, but you have, I don't know how many billions of dollars have been authorized by U.S. Congress to essentially ship weapons into Ukraine. You have NATO shipping in weapons, different countries providing intelligence so that the Ukrainian forces can attempt to stymie the Russian advance. Now, while, there's not boots on the ground from the West and Russia, to our knowledge, maybe there are, I don't know, it's basically a war. And so you can make the argument that World War III has already started. It's just not this hot, super kinetic, I'm going to throw my nukes at you kind of thing that we had in the last World War.
Now, why do you think this matters? Is this going to play out in energy prices? Is it going to play out as a debt problem? Why does this become part of the backdrop of the context that will lead to this coming financial crisis?
So at the end of the day, right, human civilization is the transformation of the potential energy of the sun and the earth into useful economic work, right? And so cheap energy prices equals prosperity. Russia is the largest commodity exporter in the world. They have oil, they have natural gas, they've got metals, they've got food, right? The Ukrainian breadbasket was one of the largest wheat exporters in the world. Sunflower seeds, oils, all this stuff is in this region. And now the West has decided that we're no longer going to trade with Russia on paper. Now, if you actually look at the details, India, China, some of these other countries are basically just buying the Russian stuff, refining it, selling it back to the Europeans and the Americans at a higher price, right? So the result of this policy of let's ostracize Russia is let's just raise prices on our energy inputs globally. And so the war is causing the inflation that now the central banks have to fight by raising interest rates, which then bankrupts the banking system because they now have all these bonds, that are underwater. So this ideology that we need to fight Russia to, keep the Eurasian island fractured is the proximate cause of the inflation that's causing the financial crisis in the West itself. So it's a dumb policy, but it is the natural result of what happens when you say, I'm not going to trade with the largest commodity exporter in the world.
I think it's important to break down exactly the cocktail of things that go into making an economy weak. This was something it took me a long time to learn, and for anybody that's been watching the show for a while, they've gotten to go on this journey with me of figuring out how all this works, the debt cycle, exactly what happened with the banking crisis, inflation, all of that. How does this begin? Does it all start with the money printing, which leads to the inflation, which causes the banking crisis? What comes first? How does this ball get rolling?
So, the situation wouldn't be so bad if there wasn't all the money printing prior. So at the end of the day, let's take the U.S. for an example, because it's the largest and richest country in the world. My opinion and thesis is, back in the 1970s, the U.S. government made a tacit promise to the baby boomers. And they said, hey, go out, work, spend your money, don't save. We got you. We're going to make sure that when you get old, you're going to have healthcare covered by the government. And don't worry, you can be as energy inefficient as you want, 2 cars in a garage, driving all over the place, not supporting public transportation. We're going to make sure that where there's oil.
Keep It Quilted means you keep it the best. Keep It Quilted means comfort that feels good and does good, with 5 million trees planted. For her, and for generations to come. Keep It Quilted with Quilted Northern.
Bill, we're going to get it. So our defense budget is going to be astronomical. And so the baby boomers are great. We're going to go out there and live our lives and consume the most that any generation ever has in human history, U.S. baby boomers. And what's happened? Health costs continue to rise. Now, they didn't rise so much starting until maybe 5 or 10 years ago because they're in the productive years of their life. But now, and I'm sure probably you've had some guests on talking about what they call U.S. sick care, right? The amount of money you spend in the last 10 years of your life dwarfs all the money you spent preceding. And the way the incentives work in the U.S. healthcare system, there's no incentive to actually have preventative care. It's, when you get sick, let's stick you up in the hospital and just go to town on the insurance company, which essentially is the U.S. taxpayer with Medicare and Social Security. Now, no U.S. politician, and I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat or third party, whatever, can stand up there and say, I'm going to reform the U.S. healthcare system. And guess what, baby boomers, who are the richest cohort and the most politically active, your health benefits are going to decline. You will not get reelected. And so these two programs are sacrosanct. You also will not get reelected saying, hey, we're going to really tackle this, this runaway U.S. defense budget. We're not going to go around the world bombing everybody to make sure that you have enough oil so that you can have the newest, badass pickup truck in your garage guzzling oil. You also will not get reelected. So healthcare and defense, these line items in the government budget cannot be altered under the current political system and what has been promised to the people over the last 50 years. Which basically means that as the population gets older and as the world becomes more multipolar, meaning there's other challengers, namely China, who are saying, hey, this quote-unquote rules-based order that's determined by 4% of the population doesn't work for the rest of the 96% of the population that never got a say in what this order was. We want a new order. We want to have our own commodities. We want to have our own material wealth. We also want to eat a bunch of beef and drive a car, right? If you think about the per capita energy uses of the world, for it to match the United States on a global level will require an inordinate amount of energy that we just don't have, right? That just means inflation. So what are countries doing? They say, actually, we're going to keep our stuff for ourselves. We'll only export finished products, which makes things more expensive. And so this is all happening before we even got to what's going on today. And as we've had less and less kids, because rich people have less kids, and when women have the choice of contraception, they choose not to have as many children, the Federal Reserve is like, well, okay, we don't have any growth of humans. We don't have any, we have an escalating cost of keeping the political promises we made to our people. The only option is to print money to make sure that the government can fund itself at an affordable level. And every time there's a financial crisis, instead of reforming the banking system and allowing some people to fail, they just print money to make sure that the banking system is sound. And the goal of the banking system is to take the people's savings and hand it to the government. That is why the banking system must always be saved from the government perspective, because that's what it's there for. And different countries use their banking systems in different ways to essentially get to the same goal of funding the government at a cheap level. And so that's why whenever the banking system is threatened, the government or the central bank must come in and save it by printing money. So we've gone through this situation, coming up in today, where, the U.S. went from, 30% debt to GDP in the 1980s to 130% today, which is, a massive amount. And if you read, I forgot the other professor named Rogoff wrote a piece about debt. Maybe 2011 book came out. I forgot when, sometime in the last 15, 20 years. And he empirically showed that once a country crosses about 130% debt to GDP, there is always a default. And a default could be massive currency depreciation, it could be massive financial repression, or it could be some sort of default in the government bond market every single time, no exceptions, right? So they're at this level already, and now the inflation comes. And the inflation is part and parcel result of there's less humans doing productive things, the war on climate change and the rebuke of hydrocarbons, and then more players in the world getting assertive over their natural resources, saying it shouldn't just all go to the United States and Western Europe. It should come to our people. We should enjoy the same standard of living that we see in the Hollywood movies.
You can reboot your life, your health, even your career, anything you want. All you need is discipline. I can teach you the tactics. I learned while growing a billion-dollar business that will allow you to see your goals through. Whether you want better health, stronger relationships, a more successful career, any of that is possible with the mindset and business programs in Impact Theory University. Join the thousands of students who have already accomplished amazing things. Tap now for a free trial and get started today.
The idea that 130% debt to GDP has always historically equaled default, I've never heard that before. That's troubling. We'll come back to that. So the idea of money printing, this is what I want to anchor people around. So, okay, so you make all these promises to a gigantic generation. That generation does not replenish themselves, so there are not more people to be productive and take care of them. And so your only tool that you have is to start using debt. The only way to manage the debt is to print money, to not default on it. And now walk us through, this took me a while to really get my head around, the idea that money printing is inflation. Inflation is simply saying that the amount of money is inflating like a balloon compared to the things you can buy with it. So since there are no additional things to buy, then people just start charging more for the things that are on offer because there's more money floating in the system. How accurate is that?
That's basically it, right? There's the denominator, i.e. the amount of money, is just growing infinitely. And then the finite stuff, and I think about finite stuff as energy, right? We produce, and that is, in my opinion, hydrocarbons, because that is the thing that powers our entire global civilization. I don't care what you believe about the good or evil of oil, but your entire modern life is predicated on oil, whether you believe it or whether you want to believe it or not. And so it's not as if we've gotten that much more productive in pulling oil out of the ground, or have found, or decided to commercialize nuclear energy, which has been around since, the 1960s, right? For whatever reason, we as a civilization globally decided to ignore this amazing energy source and poo-poo it. Now, if we had decided back in the day to commercialize nuclear and spend the amount of energy and money that we have spent on wind and solar on making nuclear the safest possible energy usage and the smallest possible delivery mechanism, we might not be in this situation. But those are the political choices we made as a civilization. So the amount of energy and how much energy we're producing every year is not growing. In actual fact, like, we hit peak oil, a while ago, meaning the entire growth of the oil industry has been predicated on U.S. shale, and the number of new discoveries and new wells being drilled is declining precipitously because shale depletes itself very quickly. But it's not like we're finding a new Saudi Arabia every 10 years. No, these massive oil discoveries, we're just not making them like we were in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so more debt, the amount of energy we're producing is flattish. And so that's why we're going to have energy inflation. And when you have energy inflation, you have goods inflation, because every single good we use is a derivative of energy.
So this is a unique take, at least for me. You're the only person that I've heard anchor everything around energy. I've heard you say, and this is really important for people if they want to understand the point of inflation and why it becomes so problematic, is that what you're really trying to do across time is preserve your purchasing power as it relates to the amount of energy. So energy is going to determine the cost of a flight. Energy is going to determine the cost of a car. Energy is certainly going to determine the cost of gas, plastics, on and on and on.
like even when it's not, plastics can be confused because it's made of the same substance roughly. But even just to do the creation, all of that stuff requires energy, which right now, obviously the main source of that energy is still currently coming from fossil fuels. So understanding that you're in this race against that. So now you've got two problems. Problem number one is what you just laid out, that we're flattish. We're not finding new Saudi Arabias every 10 years, which would be lovely and would certainly help make that easier, setting aside any obviously potential global warming issue, but just from an energy cost standpoint. So then problem number two becomes that we're inflating the money supply. And so now the cost of that is already going up. So what I want to get into, so if we know that we have this magic mark of 130% debt to GDP is going to equal a default, we're already at 130% debt to GDP, but we have two promises, healthcare and that to keep.
We were on a guided museum tour. I'm not an art person, but then I found something that spoke to me. Explore over 300,000 travel experiences you'll remember. Do more with Viator.
The prices where they are from an energy perspective, we're going to have to run around the world, defense, to make sure that we have access to the flows of oil. We're going to be doing more money printing. Now, walk me through what are some of the things that are other than that, because the crazy thing is you listed those two. I wasn't even really thinking about those two as being something that's going to cause us to inflate. I was thinking about, for instance, the BTFP, Bank Term Funding Program, so which is basically stealth money printing, quantitative easing, just under a different name. It's actually bigger than the COVID stimulus, which was 4.1 trillion. So walk us through what are some other things that you see on the horizon that are going to lead to more inflation?
So that's sort of the past. In the future, we have essentially the rest of the world, and call it the non-aligned countries. They don't subscribe to the West, i.e. NATO or the China sphere, right? They just, hey, we're a bunch of countries. We've been impoverished ever since pretty much forever. We have the natural resources that are needed to power the green revolution. We have hydrocarbons. We have people who will come into the U.S. and be your nurses, will clean your toilets, will take care of your children, right? This is what we have. We want to keep these resources for ourselves now. We don't want to choose a side, China or the U.S. We just want to get wealthier ourselves. How do we do that? We trade. What do we trade? We trade higher value goods, right? So an example would be Indonesia, a large producer of nickel, one of the largest in the world. Joko Widodo, the president of the country, has recently banned the export of raw nickel. He said, guys, you want some nickel? Come down to Indonesia, build some sort of manufacturing plant, and export the refined product. So I think, if I read the statistic recently, they went from about $1 billion of economy around nickel when they were just exporting the raw stuff to something about $20 billion of value added when they were said, guess what, guys, you need to build stuff to employ our people to elevate the standing of our country. So this is just one country. The rest of the world is like, why the fuck are we letting these guys come down here, own our natural resources, not give us jobs, and then send back the raw stuff, and then we import finished goods, right? That's been the entire structure since World War II, and why stuff is very cheap in the U.S. and Western Europe relative to how expensive things are in the rest of the world. And so they're fed up with this. And now sort of they've broken the ideological position, conditioning. Maybe some of the leaders who were on the take from all these countries are no longer in power. And they're like, we want to be like the Americans and the Western Europeans. We've seen the movies. We want to be like them. Why can't we be like them? Well, we're going to stop giving you guys all of our stuff, essentially almost for free. And so this is just a movement, resource nationalism. This is what I call Kirill Sokolov from 13D calls it the allegiance of the aggrieved. The aggrieved being anyone who's suffered, post-colonial issues from essentially being an economic vassal of, some European nation or America. And so they are saying they're gaining their voice again, and at a time when the appetite of the Western public to go and knock heads against the wall is declining. And so you have this situation where the raw stuff that powers the awesome standard of living that's in Western Europe and America is going to get more expensive because it doesn't come from those countries themselves. And in the case of America has all the stuff it ever needs. It's just that the companies in charge would rather ship all the stuff out to third world countries and have a cheaper labor base than employ Americans who are expensive, right? Europe's not so lucky, but I think that is a source of inflation that's only going to grow as the rest of the world says, I want to live in the Hollywood movie too.
Okay, so when I think about some of the stealth liabilities that we have, the number starts getting pretty scary. When you think about the buildup as we're having this big party, there's all the stimulus coming in. One, what do you think is going to trigger that? You said in 3 to 6 months you expect some sort of big disturbance. What kind of big disturbance are you looking for? What are things that the government is going to pony up for? Is it just the things you've listed so far, healthcare, defense, and then the banking sector, or are there other things that people aren't thinking about in terms of liabilities there's no way they'd let go down?
Yeah, so at some point I need to write an essay on this, but essentially over the last 40 to 50 years, the financial ecosystem has been predicated on a scenario where there's never been a situation where long end, so let's call it 10 or 30-year bond yields in the US, rise, so they go up, but they go up faster than short-term yields. It's called...
That's never happened?
For a sustained period of time, no. Over the last 40, 50 years. It's called a bear steepener, right? So if I'm a bank, I'm an insurance company, I'm a pension company, and I'm going to model what I think the future is going to look like, I'm going to model the way the future's looked for the past 30, 40 years, which is every time there's an issue and yields go up, the government comes in and prints money and squashes it back down. They squash the volatility down in the markets because they want to save the banking system. They don't want anything to blow up. But now, because we're in the situation, at least in the U.S. Treasury market, where the U.S. government is issuing the most amount of debt ever, right? Federal deficit's like 7 or 8% of GDP. It's as if we're in a war. This is, the longest sustained sort of deficit since World War II. But we're not in a war, at least not an overt one. You have 7.75 trillion US dollars worth of debt must be rolled over by 2026. Massive amount of debt. That's just on the US side. So who's going to buy it, right? The traditional buyers were, one, China, Japan, right? China and Japan are not buying any more US treasuries. China, because it doesn't want to become more tethered to the dollar from a geopolitical safety issue. Japan, because it's also facing an issue in their bond market where their currency is getting trashed because they are also trying to save their bond market. Japan, thankfully to themselves, have saved a lot of money over the last 30, 40 years. And so they're now starting to draw down on that money. They're not buying new treasuries. They're starting to sell treasuries. China's starting to not buy any more treasuries. So they're starting to sell treasuries. And you can look at the official data from the US Treasury. You can see the balance of treasuries owned by China and Japan are declining. On the oil exporter side, right, talking about OPEC, Russia is a big member of OPEC. Russia's obviously not buying any more treasuries. They just banned them from the Western financial system. Saudi Arabia is not increasing its treasury position. It's also decreasing. So the oil exporting nations who previously would earn dollars internationally and park those dollars in the U.S. banking system and buy treasuries, they're no longer buying treasuries. The U.S. banking system. The U.S. banking system is functionally insolvent because the regulators made the rules in such a way that it was profitable from an accounting perspective, not an economic perspective, to essentially take in deposits and buy low-yielding treasuries. And they could do it with almost infinite leverage and a few basis points difference and the change in the price, and everybody make a lot of money and everybody gets a big bonus, right? So the banks collectively bought all these treasuries in 2021, and obviously the prices went down a lot since then, and that's why we have the regional banking crisis. So at a structural level, the U.S. banking system cannot buy more debt because it can't afford to because it's functionally insolvent. And so, and that leaves the Federal Reserve, but the Federal Reserve has committed to doing quantitative tightening, which means it's letting the treasuries roll off of its balance sheet. It's not accumulating more treasuries. So the Treasury has to issue all its new debt. It has to roll over all this new debt. But the major buyers of this stuff, for all their own disparate reasons, cannot purchase it. And so what we're seeing in the markets is relationships that held clad are breaking down. If you take a look at the 10-year U.S. Treasury versus gold, you would think as yields are rising in the U.S. Treasury market, that gold would be getting clobbered. That's how it's worked in modern financial history. Because if the interest rate is high, money says, I want to own that. I want to own the 4.5% Treasury versus owning gold, which pays me nothing. But nowadays, gold's holding firm. It's not like rising crazy in a crazy fashion, but it's not getting clobbered either. As U.S. Treasury 10-year yields are at 434 basis points last time I checked.
So hold on, that makes a prediction. At least as my mind grasped it, that people think that the bank is going to default because
Diversity, equity, and inclusion can and should be your job market advantage. Stand out from the crowd with Dice's employer branding tools. Power up your hiring potential. Make tech connections that last through Dice.
The government's going to default because if you're getting whatever risk-free money right now it's like something like 5%. If you can have risk-free money at 5% and people are not fleeing gold to get into that risk-free money at 5%, that says to my limited mind that the market no longer believes that it's risk-free. Is that an accurate assumption?
The market, the U.S. debt is risk-free in a U.S. dollar perspective in a nominal basis.
And why would people stay in gold?
Because they say, I'm not getting paid enough, right? Now, I use a term of real yield, and if you ask an economist, you get a different answer depending on who you ask. My definition of the real yield is I take the government bond yield and I subtract nominal GDP, right? So if I'm lending money to the government, from a philosophical standpoint, I should receive at least the yield of the growth of the economy. So if the economy is growing at 10%, I should get paid 10% too, because I'm contributing to that, right? I'm lending to the government's doing its thing, and the economy is growing. I should get paid the same amount. Now, from the government's perspective, we're like, hold on, I can make a profit if I can somehow engineer the economy to grow at 10%, but I only pay you 5%. That's a negative yield. I the government, am making your profit. Or conversely, if the yield is 10% and the economy is growing at 5%, then me, the bondholder, is earning a profit. But right now, the economy in the U.S., if you take a look at the latest Atlanta Fed GDP nowcast, and they have a real-time guesstimate on where the GDP is running. Nominal GDP this quarter is running around 9%. The 10-year yield is about 4.34%. So I, as a bondholder, am getting shortchanged. Now people are starting to realize it. Like, hold on, the U.S. economy on paper is growing like gangbusters. I should be getting paid more money. If I'm not going to get paid more money, then I'm not going to own these bonds, because I can own something else that's going to give me a better return, whether that's stocks, gold, crypto, whatever. Right?
Is gold,
AI tech stocks.
just to take a non-controversial one, would gold ever outperform that number?
In terms of the yield?
Yeah, because the way you're explaining it, it sounds like people are cutting their nose off to spite their face. Like, if you're going to get 5% risk-free with a treasury and you're going to get next to nothing with gold, then why on earth would you, even if you could get 10%, even if you have moral outrage at the government for keeping half of that yield for themselves, which I admit, if you loan the money to the government, it's pretty fishy that they would keep that for themselves. But if you're getting a better yield than you would get from gold, what on earth are people doing? Just saying, I'd rather get nothing because I'm angry? I don't understand.
So, most people who own bonds are holding, the bonds are priced, right? So as the yields rise, the bond price goes down. And so as yields go from 5% to, let's say, 10%, and the Fed just keeps raising rates, right? As a holder of the bond, you've lost money because the yields are rising, the bond price goes down, right? So as yields rise, I lose money because I've locked in a lower rate and it's going higher, the bond price goes down, versus gold, which could go up, right? Or just could stay flat at the end of the day, and I'm fine. So if you take a look at returns of 10-year bonds starting in end of 2021, when the Fed started raising rates, you've gotten absolutely killed. It's been the worst bond bear market in hundreds of years, right? So owning bonds has been a terrible, terrible investment over the last 2 years because inflation's going up and the bond market's saying, actually, I demand more yield. And it just keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher to attract more and more buyers. Now, if the U.S. government was perfectly willing to put the 10-year Treasury yield up at 10%, they'd have a flood of money into the market. That's awesome. I'm getting paid the same growth as the U.S. economy. But right now I'm not because the government can't afford it. Right now the Treasury is already spending something like 34% of budgets, like interest payments on an annual basis.
34%?
Yes, so it's a $1 trillion annualized right now is the interest expense as of second quarter, the last time the Treasury published a statistic. So they're issuing more debt and they're paying more money on the debt, and that number is just going like that in terms of the interest expense handed out to people who own bonds, right? But on the long end, and this is how bonds work, the longer the maturity, the more sensitive you are to interest rates. If the yield starts at a low level, going from 1% to 5% on a 10-year Treasury absolutely destroys you as a long bondholder, which is why a lot of these bond funds have done terribly over the last few years because of how bond math works. And it's a non-linear change when you raise interest rates and how the bond price performs. Gold is pretty much held constant over that time. Maybe you haven't lost money, but if you were holding a long bond at 1-2% and now it's at 5%, you've gotten crushed. And that's exactly what happened with the banking system. SVB, First Republic, Silvergate, Signature. This year they've gotten crushed on long bond trading.
Okay, I want to walk people through that. So when it comes to math, I have a very simple mind. You're going to correct me where I go wrong, but I think people at home, some of them are going to benefit from what I have struggled over the last year or so to put together in my mind. Again, when I go wrong, you need to jump in and let people know. But here is how I understand bonds. If you hold a bond to maturity, you're not going to lose your principal. So what you're losing is potential earnings. So you would not be able to sell that bond. So for those keeping score, it goes like this. You buy a bond. That bond has a interest payment. And that interest payment, let's say, is 2%. And if you buy that bond for 10 years to get the 2%, and a year later, a new bond comes out for 10 years that pays 5%, now if you try to sell that bond in the secondary market, people are going to go, why on earth would I buy that? When I can, for the same price, I can get a better yield. And so you have sort of lost money in that you can't sell it before the